Welcome to episode 5 of What's the Point of Loyalty, the not so regular vlogcast, a mini series about loyalty, the customer kind. I'm Adam Posner and I'm a loyalty whisperer, or sometimes people tell me that I shout, but I'm here to discuss and debate that very question. What is loyalty? With industry insiders, outsiders, makers, shakers, and cake bakers, or anyone that might just have a point of view on loyalty, the customer kind, and all of its different shapes, forms, and sizes. The human I am chatting with today has real intelligence rather than the artificial kind. And I'm truly so excited to have my mentor and friend, Phil Hawkins, here today. So, Phil, instead of a set bio, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a minute and then answer some quick questions. And then we get into our usual over the coffee cafe debate that we have on a regular basis about so many aspects of customer loyalty and loyalty programs. So, hi, Phil. Welcome to What's the Point of Loyalty? Please tell us a little bit about yourself, a mini bio. We don't have to spend 5 hours because you've had 30 or 40 years of experience. Please give us a little something about yourself. And maybe you're not so prepared for this, but something you'd like to share with my 5 million viewers in my dreams when we go public, if you're up to it. So let's go for it.
Thanks, Adam. Lovely to be with you. I was first involved in loyalty in 1993, so that's 32 years ago. Spent a large majority of my working life after that in loyalty, predominantly in coalition loyalty programs, predominantly with the Flybuys program here in Australia. I hung up my boots formally a bit under 4 years ago, but since then I've, for better or worse, kept across the industry as I suppose I'd call myself an industry observer and commentator.
Sometimes a grumpy commentator, may I say.
Yes, and that's a very good point, Adam, because yes, the grumpy bit is, you get to a certain age and you do spend too much of your time playing the part of the old man shaking his fist at the clouds. But I have found it quite enjoyable being able to comment professionally on matters loyalty without having to worry about the corporate affairs team behind my shoulder or that kind of constraint. So that's been fun.
Yeah.
Now, Adam, the thing that you wanted me to share that I don't share more widely with folk, I did play in a rock band for 18 years, in
A rock band.
a largely amateur sense.
Who would have guessed?
Although the band we did play at the Myer Music Bowl in Melbourne,
Really?
and we did play at Festival Hall once.
Oh, well, then you've definitely made it onto the stage, onto the wider stages.
Yeah. So look, I played largely for the love of it. It certainly wasn't a financially attractive proposition. That meant I had to spend my life grinding away in loyalty instead.
And what is the name of the band?
Well, we were called Young Elders for many of our years. In the latter period, we suddenly felt unhappy with that name, and we called ourselves the Monikers. And there is a story why we called ourselves the Monikers, because we wrote a song called "Fly Monica Fly" that, following a strange series of circumstances, got to the attention of the then famous tennis player Monica Seles.
Oh, wow.
To cut a long story short,
Yeah.
when she visited Australia, we met her, we played the song to her. We get a mention in her biography, and we thought we would call ourselves the Monikers when we were looking for a slightly different name.
So are the Monikers on Spotify? Can I find you and listen to Fly Monica Fly?
Yes, you can. There are 2 entries under the Monikers, and there are 2 entries under the under Young Elders.
Yeah.
And in fact, only in the last week, never before released, publicly. Our final gig as the Monikers in May 2000, 25 years ago,
Yeah,
uh, at the Continental Cafe in Prahran here in Melbourne.
yeah.
That is now on Spotify.
Oh, Phil, I love that. It's amazing how we all look at someone and follow them in a professional capacity. And, I've known you uh, more years than I can remember. In fact, I do remember when I met you when I happened to have the opportunity to help relaunch Flybys in 2012. And a little story about you, I came in as an agency to support that process. And I remember coming into a boardroom there at the big grey building in what did they used to call it? The Galactica or something.
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. And I remember coming into this boardroom and there were 20, Coles Flybys peoples and me and my couple of colleagues. And you were the one person who walked up to me, put your hand out and said, "Hi, Adam, welcome." And I'll always remember that for to the day I go, is that somebody gave me a little bit of, I know I was a supplier agency and we could talk about that in a different way, but I just can always remember the gentleman in you, the considered individual. But, fast forward to today, what I'm really saying is, who would have thought you were a rock star? I mean, seriously, that's just a great story, and I can't wait to get the Spotify. I think you get 0.001 cent for every download. I don't know what you get, but hopefully you can continue retirement.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, all
Thanks,
right,
Adam.
let's get into some loyalty stuff.
Yeah.
Three questions, Phil. What's the point of loyalty?
I thought this was quite a hard question to answer, but I I jumped to the word relationships, which kind of
Mm,
makes sense when you think about personal loyalty, but
mm,
certainly makes sense in terms of customer loyalty. And loyalty programs have given brands and organizations the opportunity to have a relationship with their customers. And the more effort you put into that being a happy, productive, respectful relationship, the
mm,
better. And when that relationship is in a good place,
mm,
then all the benefits of loyalty programs, such as repeat business, lifetime value,
mm.
and so on, they flow from that.
And is that sort of the lens that you played I guess in your purposes, I think what I recall, you were operation head of operations, and really you were the man that everyone said, we want to do this, we want to do that, send out these, send out that. You were the sort of the guardrails around respect of the data set, respect of the customer, respect of the member. Did you find that that's where your view of building a relationship came from?
Yeah, I think that's true, Adam. I I did find myself falling into the position of being the voice, not the voice of the customer so much, but particularly with a multi-retailer program like Flybuys, where you've got many, many brands all wanting
Mm,
to pick the customers at once, and just getting uh, that right sweet spot, that right sweet spot
mm,
that meant it was a productive thing for the member brands, but also thinking about the members of the program,
mm.
that they were treated respectfully, appropriately, that we didn't come across as the pushy salesperson that you didn't open the email half an hour ago. How about this one?
Yeah, I think we'll explore that concept a bit more. So my next question is: are you an insider, an outsider, a maker, a shaker, or a cake baker?
This is pretty easy to answer. Shaker,
Aha.
and maybe not an effective shaker sometimes, but my loyalty life these days is uh, commenting, discussing, reflecting, and whether that influences, maybe at times it can. As I said, at worst, I'm the old man shaking my fist at the clouds. But that's my role these days in loyalty, I think.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree that you are a shaker. And maybe we now that I heard the story about the monikers, we could also call you a maker of music. But more a shaker, I'd suggest. Yeah. So, what is your biggest frustration as a commentator and observer, and also been in the industry for 20 plus years? What's your biggest frustration with loyalty programs?
No, I've got a number.
I said biggest, but give me your three then. Okay, if you've got more than one,
Okay.
go for it.
I
Go
see
for it.
programs set up for the wrong reasons,
Yeah,
with no particular objectives in mind,
yeah,
that are there because they think it's the right thing to do or because their competitors got one.
yeah.
Another big one for me is the tendency to add complexity just for the sake of being sexy or different,
Mm,
um, at the expense of
mm,
clarity,
mm,
simplicity, ease of understanding.
mhm.
And for a third one, I think um, the programs that don't use the data they have at hand to
Mm.
communicate in a relevant, respectful, interesting manner. How often as members of loyalty programs do we ask the question, why did they send me that? Because
Yeah.
they know this, and this about me.
Mm.
So therefore, why was I a candidate to receive this communication?
Yeah, I agree with many of all of the above that you've said. I think your last one around, we all know that the elephant in the room, the giraffe in the room is why do brands build programs is the big D word. I mean, ultimately, they're going to get data. I mean, that's the essence, right? So if that's the essence, why aren't they using that with sensitivity, with more value back? So they can get value internally. We all know if you're smart internally, you can use the data in incredible ways, but value back to the member. I mean, to me, that to me is a bit of a hobby horse because in the latest For Love or Money, I talk about, and I know it's pretty, I guess it's a research study which says, the five benefits that members want for their data, the data value benefit exchange. And I know you commented on that to me, but in essence, it is an exchange. And so if I'm going to give it to you, please use it to make my life better in some way, shape, or form. So the third point you made there, I feel we could talk about for another 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in how would you explain? I'm not sure if you've got grandchildren or young folk that you hang around with at 9 years old, but how would you explain what you did at Flybys to a 9-year-old?
I think it was for me, I had the responsibility of keeping the loyalty factory running.
Ah,
So
so
what
what's
are
a loyalty factory?
yeah, so the nuts and bolts in the loyalty factory are things like allocating points, handing out rewards, uh, producing plastic cards, operating call centers, making
Ah,
sure everything's secure, communicating offers to members in the right way, and when that all happens correctly, everything runs well. We don't send too many emails to members. They don't have to wait very long to get their points. When they get a reward, they get it on time, and it's
nice.
and it's the experience they want.
Okay, so this 9-year-old here got a little bit lost, but heard one word. And he heard the word called factory. And I suddenly thought, are you Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory?
Well, when you think about flybys, and programs of that size, they're by necessity complex.
Yeah.
In the background, there's often many different strands of string, sticky tape, spaghetti. As much as you want them to be well-oiled
Yeah.
machines, and
Yeah.
particularly with a program like Flybys that's over 30 years old,
Yeah.
they are complex systems. And what
Yeah.
I did learn was if you make the slightest error or if something doesn't go quite right,
Yeah.
it doesn't affect three members, it affects 30,000 members.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing that would keep me up at night and literally kept me up at night. I did get a phone call at 20 past midnight once,
um,
because there was some unusual activity happening that we'd needed to urgently address.
I'd still love to explore. Did you ever see Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Does that like ring a bell for you? I'd still like to see, like, with, were you the Willy Wonka? Or I'm not quite sure who the other things, handing out the chocolates, taking people down the chocolate streams, but actually, avoiding the sickness of the chocolate.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't given a lot of thought to what particular character I would allocate
That
to
that was
myself.
a random thought that came when you said the word factory.
Yeah.
Look, flybys, everyday rewards, these big, by definition, programs been around a long time, almost like, the foundation of the loyalty program industry in Australia are the big guys who are always doing and moving and making mistakes, but doing good things, but always in the eyesight of everyone, from government to little people like me watching what they do and everyone else. So flybys are close to 10 million, and we'll get to that word active members. What are your thoughts around, that word active members, 10 million, like reflecting as an observer there? What are your thoughts around that?
Flybuys has had a lot of challenges over the 30 years. Um, it hasn't been all plain sailing at certain times, although I'd characterize the last 10 to 15 years as extremely successful. The fact that there are 10 million Australians actively engaged with the program, well, I think that's a great testament to the program and the people that worked it on over the years, because to have that level of engagement consistently,
Mm,
uh, for those that say the loyalty programs don't work, and they know who they are. um, I and how do you respond to that? We say, well, here's a program that Australians have stuck with for 30 years,
yeah,
and younger Australians keep enjoying,
yeah,
and they get it.
yeah,
So it's a source of pride that there's 10 million active
yeah,
members out there.
yeah. That's amazing. I want to take a step back to this coalition concept stroke naming of programs. Can you help me and some people who are interested in this area, but defining coalition programs, and really not only that, then take that thought further into sort of what are the similarities and or differences in both proposition and in operations versus, say, a proprietary brand that has partners.
Yeah, that last bit's very interesting. So my definition of coalition loyalty programs, which uh, is not, I think, particularly controversial. It's marked by, I think, three things: multiple partners,
Hmm.
a single currency
Hmm.
with a single card,
Hmm.
single identity,
Hmm.
managed by a central entity.
Hmm.
Traditionally, that central entity was usually a third party.
Mm.
So, you know, back in the golden era of coalition programs, you had, very large global organizations like AMIA and Loyalty One promulgating that model. Now, Flybuys was a slight variation on that theme because, yes, it's managed by a central entity called Loyalty Pacific, but that entity is actually owned by the largest brands in the program.
Mhm.
Whereas the model that was adopted by, say, Miles Canada in the past and even Nectar in the past was a genuine third party company.
Mm.
So, how do you get variations on that theme? And uh, yeah, is Woolworths Everyday Rewards a coalition program? Um, I would say it looks more like it these days than it did because it's engaging genuine third-party companies at which you can earn points.
Mhm.
A lot of those are service type partners, and I'll get onto that a bit later.
Mm.
Um, but the the essence of the original coalition programs was not quite a democracy,
Mm.
but a whole lot of brands getting together for mutual benefit. I'll bring my customers into this mix. You bring yours.
Mm.
By the way, the central entity can make communications on my behalf to people who aren't my customers, but are customers of the other entity. And not a democracy, but a sense of cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, thinking about frequent flyer programs, is that the case there? No, I see it as a big juggernaut in the middle and a whole lot of smaller players down the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the growth of Tesco Club Card, now that had lots of ways to earn points, but it was all around Tesco.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tesco Financial Services, Tesco this, Tesco that,
Mm-hmm.
a few other bits and pieces down the bottom, maybe a couple of other earning opportunities, but all about Tesco.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I find it hard to be totally black and white and, get in discussions with a whole lot of people about whether frequent flyer programs can be coalition programs. What does that exactly mean? But I hope I've given a bit of a flavour.
You have. You've given us three constructs to define them, and there are nuances in the purest form. Maybe we don't have one in Australia, in the absolute purest form anymore. Correct? In
Uh,
terms of your three,
well, I'm biased, but I'd say Flybuys is closest
the
because
closest. Yeah,
and it helps because it is a coalition. It's
yeah,
ownership of the coalition
yeah,
of Coles and Wesfarmers.
yeah.
Now, we can get into this topic a bit deeper, but one thing that marks these programs historically and to this day is they tend to be dominated by the supermarket or grocer
Yep,
in
yep,
the program.
yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. Okay, and then really on that definition, a proprietary program which has partners, and maybe there's not a currency here, so there may or may not be. Let's just say that there is. We wouldn't necessarily then put the word coalition against that. We just say it's a program with partners. Yeah.
Yeah, multi-partner program.
Yeah, multi-partner program, and I think that's different. Yeah, I love the clarity of your definition and all your use cases around that. So what's the good and the bad, the ugly, the brilliant, whichever you prefer to analyze. Let's just go with coalition versus uh, multi-partner program as a comparison.
Um, so thinking about all of them, the good things about these programs, multi-partner programs, I mean, the blindingly obvious, there are multiple ways to collect points as part of your everyday shopping.
Yeah.
And so, when Flybuys launched in August 1994, and on a Sunday night, we had on the 6 o'clock news 4 ads in a row.
Mm.
From memory, a Myer Flybuys ad, a Shell Flybuys ad, a National Australia Flybuys ad, and a Flybuys ad, and that
Mm.
wasn't even putting anything like Coles in.
Mm.
And so it created this sense of, I can use this card everywhere. Well, what do you think the chances were of having that card in a prominent place in your purse or wallet? Very, very high. This was not going to be the card that, I can't be bothered carrying it around because I'm never going to use it, or I rarely use it. Right.
Mm.
But the program stayed top of mind.
Mm.
The other advantage was that with a central operating entity, well, it's operated by specialists. That's all they do.
Mm.
You didn't have to go through the tricks for young players and the missteps because the small marketing department didn't quite know what they were doing. Here, come and join this program because here are the professionals running it. And the other big advantage I saw was partners can speak to customers who aren't their own via the program
Mm.
operator,
Mm.
which you can't do if you're a Myer One or a classic single retailer program. So that's the good. Where are the challenges and all in that? Well, the first one is for the operator managing the partners.
Mm.
Um, Data ownership,
Uh,
absolutely massive, and possibly the biggest single issue now. That where back in the day, partners, well, I don't know if they were happy to, but they kind of had, to operate these programs, you have to hand some data over,
yeah,
transaction
yeah,
information, so
yeah,
that when someone rings the call center of the coalition program and says,
yeah,
where are my points from my transaction at blah? Well, you
yeah,
need to have access to that. You can't say, oh, you better ring the
uh,
supermarket about that, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and, you know, um, but, data ownership these days, well, two words, retail media. This is my data. I'm going to uh, do great things with that in the retail media space. I don't want to hand it over to a third party who's going to be in on the act. Another issue is, the perfect pure coalition program is a set of non-competing businesses.
Non-competing.
So that all sounds fine. A grocer, a service station, financial services, discount department stores, blah, 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 all operating in their own space? No. So in the Flybuys case, when Coles decided we want to get into financial services and have a credit card, and one of our three owners at that stage was National Australia Bank, you've got a credit card, we've got a credit card. How do we operate in a nice manner so that this doesn't all end in tears? So, that non-compete thing. To pick up one of your great emerging themes, am I loyal to the program or am I loyal to the brand? Do I say I like Kmart because they've got Flybuys, or do I say I like Flybuys because they've got Kmart?
Aha, I love that.
And
Ooh,
if a partner leaves, is my loyalty follow them somewhere else, maybe to another coalition program, or does it stay
ah,
with the program? So, and in a similar vein, partners need to park their brand at the door. You know, when we launched Flybuys, we couldn't put 16 different logos on the card.
ah.
There were no logos on the card apart from the Flybuys logo. Um, and getting on to a little bit of a pet topic of mine, there's a challenge with partners who are in service industries, telcos, energy companies, health insurance, where the interest in participating in a coalition program is, ah, I can go to that base and say, hey, switch your telco services from Optus to Telstra, or
Mm,
Telstra to Optus.
mm.
And so that, they're in it for acquisition. They seem to be not in it for retention,
Mhm.
which flies in the face of, if I keep doing things with you, how are you rewarding me? That,
Ah,
that tends not to happen. It's the big bounty of points. Come across to Wally Energy and we'll give you 120,000 points. That kind of deal.
ah.
So where the challenge is with that is that the behavior can start to feel like list rental.
Ooh, that's an
We're,
interesting topic. Yeah, keep
we're,
going.
we're only interested in being in your program for as long as we can pillage, continually raid the list.
Uh-huh.
And when the list is finally appears exhausted or, overfished, for
Yes,
example, you
yes.
know, um, well, this isn't fun anymore. I'll go and find another list. And
Ah,
so, not picking on any particular, but
yeah.
Medibank Private were a partner in Flybuys, good relationship. Now they're a partner in Virgin Velocity. So there tends to be a little bit of musical chairs happening there, and it flies it flies in the face of this kind of genuine partnership where a partner has to respect what the program's trying to do. The program has to respect what the objectives of the partner are. But as I said, sometimes it's the with these businesses, it's there just to kind of pillage the list.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and we're actually getting to pull away a whole range of interesting areas, and this aspect of what the purpose behind a coalition loyalty program. I mean, there's an internal purpose, there's profit, there's cash, there's blah, all of the money side. But if it is by definition a customer retention tool, retention, then that's the purpose that's got to be we wake up every day for, rather than a customer. Yes, acquisitions there, but as you say, not a list rental. Just come here, grab our 10 million, mail, then get out and not use A, our currency, or B, the whole ecosystem to keep retaining your customers' telco. You use the currency and the value of the currency to retain your members, not only just acquire. And it sounds like what you've experienced is, in some cases, some of those partners come in for one reason and one reason only, which is get hold of that millions of available people to acquire.
Yes, and look, for those partners, I can see the model.
Yeah,
Use a facility like Flybuys to land the customer,
yeah,
and then we've got our own standalone benefits
yeah,
program, and they're all a variation on a theme.
yep,
I think they're all pretty boring, and I'm just, yeah, I could never quite understand why. Look, you've engaged a customer who understands the currency of Flybuys points. Why don't you reward their ongoing stickiness to you
mm,
with more Flybuys points? Why don't you give them a point per dollar off your
yeah,
energy? You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
And so for the retention piece,
Yeah.
yeah, that is super interesting in the sense of um, using the currency for retention, not only for acquisition. And just taking that a bit further, what do you think are the core parts of building that long-term partnership with those brands that you either isolate or they come knocking on your door saying, I'd love to be a partner, versus you going out in verticals? Like, what are those core partnership um, pillars?
I think that the one that stands out for me is that there needs to be a mutual understanding and respect.
Hmm.
Uh, that as the operator, I need to understand uh, what your business strategy and objectives are, and
Hmm.
what you really are trying to achieve uh, through this relationship. And the partner needs to understand, for what reason the program exists, and to respect things like, oh, look, I'll understand if Flybuys won't send an email every week on my behalf. I understand why Flybuys wants an offer to be of a certain level of attractiveness, so that it retains the sense of, you know, relevance, appropriateness, and not being a pushy salesperson. And so, there needs to be this kind of mutual understanding. Um, and if it is, and I don't know, this is a trite way of putting it, but if there's a genuine sense of partnership rather than
Mm,
um, uh, client, supplier, master,
yeah.
slave type
Mm,
relationship,
yeah.
then that augurs well for, a strong relationship ongoing.
Mm. So here's a scenario for you. Let's pretend you're a loyalty consultant and a brand comes to you, Phil, and says, we want to build a loyalty program. It's a proprietary brand with 500 stores, 300 stores, like a real omni-channel. And I won't necessarily say what category it's in, but let's just say it's a big retailer and they haven't got a program. Big scenario here.
Yeah.
And say, Phil, should we build our own and own and control our own program? Or should we borrow someone else's currency and knock on the door of someone else? Or maybe both. Hey, Phil, like you give us some guidance here.
Yeah, and I dare say this conversation was happening a few months ago in the offices of David Jones. Um,
Okay.
you know,
Didn't
because
expect that, but keep
you
going.
know they would no, they would they if I was in David Jones, the discussion would have been, we want to do something bigger and better in loyalty. Do we take the Myer One model, or do we take the BP model and engage with Qantas Frequent Flyer? And um, and their answer was, I think, a bit of both.
Mm. But isn't Myers sort of also got like a velocity partnership, and now we've got David Jones having a Qantas partnership. David Jones also going to launch their own, and the word on the street is points program within their, you know, ecosystem. So it's almost like structurally the same.
Well, it's not like that at the moment. As
Okay.
I understand it, as a David Jones customer, when it's launched, I
Mm.
will earn Qantas points. At the
Okay.
moment, at Myer, I can only earn Myer One points. I
Okay.
can't earn Velocity points.
Yeah.
So it's the same as Flybys.
Mm.
Flybys, I can convert my Flybys points to Velocity points, but I can't earn Velocity points at Flybys partners.
Mhm. Okay.
Um,
So let's
so,
go back to the
but
consulting thing.
yeah,
Let's go back to you being giving a guidance and and
yeah,
keep it to your pros and cons of this brand that comes to you.
yeah. So one thing I would consider um, is what's the compatibility between um, our customers? What affinity would they have
Mm.
if we joined a coalition program?
Hmm.
You know, do we think our customers or potential customers look like their members?
Hmm.
And uh, so that's a consideration. Um, is there going to be a huge learning curve for us by which we might make a number of missteps because we don't understand loyalty because we're all new to it and therefore want to go to the professionals who know it? Now,
Yep.
the argument against that is, well, I'll bring those people in, or I'll keep engaging more consultants so I don't make the missteps. One thing that has changed over the years is that there the barriers to entry for single retailer programs are much lower because there are great off-the-shelf
Mm.
solutions that you would know, Adam, make this thing
Mm.
a lot easier than it would have been back in the day.
Hmm.
And so that's a consideration.
Mm.
The marketing and branding thing is a big deal because if you and the little emergent nascent loyalty department have the chief marketing officer breathing down your neck
Mm.
saying, whatever we do, we've got to make our brand front and center, then that gets compromised a little bit with a coalition program. So those are some of the things
Mm.
I would think through.
I love
Um,
this. Oh, sorry, more. Keep going.
no, I was going to say that the you can argue that the issue around finding space in your purse or wallet is less important these days, given that we generally carry digital identities for all these things, and
Mm.
so you say that's limitless, but that top of mind thing is still there.
Mm.
You know, are they going to make me want? Are they going to make me add another app to my
Mm.
phone? And you go through that thinking, oh look, is this app worthy of space on my crowded
Mm.
phone? So that's where the strength of the well-known brand, top of mind. Yeah, I know what Flybys is.
Mm.
Still resonates.
I think there's so many tension points in that conversation, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot as being a consultant. You're giving me some free guidance as we go, but that's why you're my mentor. Um, and I have faced this conversation a number of times in my 18 years of advising. But you did say something that I really wanted to crawl out from under the rock. And it is one of many tension points in this decision. But it's like this professionals versus, a department with a manager somewhere in a structure. And it's an interesting one because obviously there's trade-offs. So if I go with an external partner who like a big program, who've actually got pretty much hundreds of people who really every day wake up and all they do every day is make their program better, versus in the proprietary business, the person and or department or is usually not very often in the C-suite. In these days, changing, I'd suggest. In fact, I'm very, very happy to say that the conversations I'm having are at very senior levels. So that loyalty is not just a marketing department for a Monday morning work in progress, send out some emails anymore. More. It's actually changed to be a valuable asset, and it's in the boardroom, it's in the ASX reports. It's actually now a serious tool strategy for many businesses. Point I'm making here is your comment around professionals versus, you know, just lifting the knowledge and experience of the humans in the business, running, managing, breathing life into a program. It has changed. I do, and I've seen the whole industry, the tides are lifting. There's a
Yeah.
lot of more education. You
Yeah.
know, I put out my report for the last 13 years, and I know, and it's no, I'm not trying to push the story, but I do go into meetings and they say, Adam, your report really helped us. Your insights really helped. So the industry, everyone's doing research, sure, but there's education, the technologies, so the whole industry is lifting. Um, but I do grab onto your point about, the proprietary programs really need to keep investing in being specialists. Like you gave the analogy to the programs where every day they wake up and that's all they do. I just want to sort of come to, we've had, you are, as we discuss more, it's almost, this is the coalition partnership vlogcast for the ages, because we've nerded out into this whole area. What is our biggest threat, like really now in 2025, loyalty programs? I'm not going to lead the witness, Your Honor, but what is the biggest threat to us?
I find it hard to answer. I see that the advancement of technology and systems means that, no, I'll put it this way. Is the identity that I create from being in a loyalty program, you know, you've got to have that identity, is that being compromised by alternative methods of basically getting to that identity? I'm not being very clear. I'll use a simple but dumb example. When Flyby started, Coles didn't know the names of any of their customers at all,
Mm,
and so to have a loyalty program where they can be identified is a really good thing.
mm,
But hang on, there's something called Coles Online.
mm,
Coles Online is giving me an identity. You know, can I find other ways of grabbing that identity and tracking their behavior that are not through the loyalty program? Now,
ah,
big corollary to that is, yeah, but why am I going to hand over that identity now? In that simple example, it's because you want to shop online.
mm,
Uh, but that's where the data exchange comes in. What are you going to give me
mm,
in exchange for me handing over all my information to you?
mm,
And that's where a loyalty program has a neat answer. We'll reward you. We'll say thank you for that, and here are the goodies, and here are the treats.
mm.
Um, if alternative models um, arise where there are a lot of better alternatives for providing that identity, then I think that's a foundational risk for programs.
Okay. Yeah, that's very deep. We could go further than that. So are you specifically just allocating that conversation to a big sort of coalition-based program or like in a proprietary? Is it everywhere and anywhere? It doesn't really matter.
Anywhere,
Is that the
everywhere.
biggest threat? Is that what you're saying to
Yeah,
programs? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So like in another example, if I'm a multi-channel retailer with stores and or online, and online is 20 to 30% of the overall, I've got 30% of identifiable data by shopping online. Does that mean that we may or may not see programs not being developed? In other words, slowly, and I don't know, I'm hypothesizing here, because we've got another source of identification that gives us enough data and insight to our customers, and we're not going to invest in giving them treats or rewards. So, we've got enough for that identifiable data to track behaviors and so on. Is that another way of expressing back
Yeah,
to you what you're saying?
yeah. I that I think that's pretty close to it. The example I think of as well that's in the Flybuys ecosystem is Coles asking you to set up to register your details with Coles. You
Yeah,
know, download the Coles app, register your details,
yeah,
and allowing that communication. So now, um, uh, Coles might say, and here's the benefits of doing that, that we're going to offer this treat for you to do that.
yep,
But you've got suddenly this new line of authentication for Coles that is separate to the loyalty program.
mm,
So, if that kind of behaviour um, uh, multiplied,
yeah.
then is that impacting? Now, maybe that's too specific an example, but
Yep.
that's the kind of thing I'm thinking of as well.
Yeah, very interesting insight. I didn't expect you going that way, but then with you, I never know what to expect. I thought maybe we'd have a conversation and we can have this back in our coffee shop about data and privacy and government and regulation, but maybe not for now because I reckon it'll be another hour as being the threat to programs. Maybe you can give me your 10 words of or less. Do you think regulation, privacy, and all the principles and watching over ACCC and watching over programs, big or small, do you think that's a threat?
It is a threat, not for programs who have always done the right thing by their
Yeah,
members,
yeah,
but for the programs that don't. And I will make a very brief comment on data retention in the light of, let's say, the Optus hack, where I think I was an Optus customer for a week for a particular reason, but that was enough and that was many years ago, and that was enough for my personal information to be compromised because Optus had retained that data.
mm,
For Qantas, who have just had their cyber incident,
mm.
uh, if I had stopped using their frequent flyer program 15 years ago, I might be shocked that I'm still considered a member by Qantas and for them to retain my data, not for good reasons, but for vanity reasons because they love.
Vanity. Volume is
Because
for vanity, activity is for sanity, cash is reality. You and I love that mantra. Yeah. So
yeah,
I think, yeah, I totally get your point there. And again, I think it's another episode or another coffee. I'm
yep.
going to finish off, Phil. And I've been admiring your eclectic looking color coded bookshelf. And put you on the spot now because seriously, which one of those? I'll do a quick mental gymnastics. Maybe 100 books on the back would stand out for you that you like regularly pull out and talk about and read again.
It's a trick question, Adam, because this back room is where I put my overflow of books.
Oh, that's an overflow. That's scary. I wouldn't like to see the other rooms. All right. Well, still, give us your the book you've read the most. Which book have you read the most? There he goes. There he goes. Live and in action. Phil Hawkins looking for his book that he always goes back to. Oh, there it is. He pulls it out. He sits down with a bunch of books and tell us. Love this.
The 10-year story of Flybuys New Zealand,
Ah, okay.
the classic
Scoring points.
for the Tesco story, etc., etc. Um, that one,
Loyalty programs. Yep.
the Phil Shelper book. Um, a fabulous gentleman who's no longer with us, who was a great mentor,
Brian Wolf,
Brian Wolf,
loyalty marketing. Yeah.
loyalty marketing. Um, a fabulous loyalty compatriot of mine
Yep.
over the years, Brian Pearson.
Fantastic.
A ray of light in the coalition world back in the day. And then I've mentioned this one, which is Tim Mason
Yeah, to Masons. Yep.
and Sarah Jarvis.
Yep.
Found some great little pearls in there. That's the
Yep.
newest book. But it would be too revealing, if I showed you too many of the
Okay.
others.
Again, this is live, well, sort of live, not edited, as you know.
Yeah.
So we've had a little bit of a Phil and his books story happening there. Phil, look, all I can say is, publicly, you've been around in my backyard almost. You read all my reports, you give me feedback, you challenge me. You always have another perspective. Sometimes I get nervous when the report's almost done. I send it to Phil and I think, oh my God, what's going to come back? But then I open my mind and I think to myself, that's okay. He's there to do what he's got to do. And it pushes me. This year, you were exceptional in challenging a few things, asking a lot of questions, especially you gave my heart a big beat when you said, oh, Adam, I do love the loyalty is not a program. I'm sorry, not that one. I do love a loyalty program is not an island off the coast of the brand. It's actually become very topical, Phil. And as you know, I don't know if you've seen my new T-shirt that I've launched, and now they're out of sale. I don't know, is it in screen? Yeah, there it is. I was at a presentation and everybody said, yes, I want one. So that was a good, but they're not for sale.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks, Phil. You are a legend personally, but a little bit grumpy at times. That's okay. We need that. I love the comment about what did you say? Something about in the cloud? That quote.
Yeah. Old man shaking his fist at the
The
cloud.
cloud. Love it. And with that, I'm going to say thanks again. Thanks everybody for listening to a real nerdy deep dive on coalition with the man who knows and has been there in the cold faces. Thanks again, and see you on the other side of the world.
Thanks, Adam.